Hi and welcome to another video. Today we'll be going through the connector installation. My name is Brad McDowell. I'm a Senior Privileged Cloud Consultant here in Australia. So the objectives for today are to prepare group policy for the two CyberArk servers we are going to implement in this lab. Then we'll run the connector management prerequisite script. Then we'll install the connector management agent, which will then in turn help us install the CPM and PSM via connector management. Once that's all completed, we'll configure group policy so that we have the CyberArk group policy hardening GPO template applied. We'll then prepare for onboarding a Windows account. We'll configure the master policy and platform management. Once that's done, we can create a safe and onboard that Windows domain account. We'll first verify the password and rotate the password using the CPM, and then we'll test that the PSM is working on both connector servers. So again, here is the lab environment, and we are going to cover the connector server 1 and connector server 2. We'll install the PSM, CPM scanner, and the connector management. We previously did the identity connector on the last video, and we'll do the secure tunnel in a separate video that's upcoming. So I'll switch over to the lab now and get started. Back on the workstation, I've logged into Privileged Cloud using the Active Directory account we used last time. I'll head over to Identity Administration. Go to Users, and we'll select All Service Users. This is where we find the installer user, and I'll document the username here because we'll need that several times throughout this installation process. Then we'll head over to Actions and we'll set a password. This password needs to be alphanumeric, no special characters, and we need uppercase and lowercase. So we'll save that. Now that that's saved, we'll head over to the marketplace. I've downloaded this on the workstation. It's a CyberArk Privileged Cloud Tools. It gives us a bunch of tools that we'll need throughout the installation for Privileged Cloud. So over on DC1, I've opened up Active Directory and Group Policy. And in my example, I've placed the two connector servers in the CyberArk Servers OU. And in that OU, in Group Policy Management, I've also disabled Group Policy Inheritance. This ensures that the servers don't pick up any policies that conflict with the CyberArk solution. We'll head over to connector server 1 and run the prerequisite script. And I'll extract the CyberArk Privileged Cloud Tools. And because we're going to be using connector management, we'll open up this folder and then open up PowerShell as administrator. So we'll run this script. The first time we run it, it will download an update potentially from GitHub. So we just simply need to rerun it again. And the first question it asks is, what is your Privileged Cloud portal URL? In my case, it's this one. Once we enter in the details, the script will fetch the information about the tenant. It'll fetch the public IP address we're reaching the internet on, and it will do a number of checks, network connectivity checks and parameter checks on the connector server. Because we have a few problems here, we'll fix them now, and I'll show you how that's done shortly. So because I want to fix these issues, I'll select No on the RDS deployment, and we'll select No on the CPM installation test. We'll do these checks later. We'll rerun the script with the troubleshooting flag. This will present a menu that we can use to, 1, disable IPv6, so we'll press number 1. And this will disable the IPv6. And then we'll press number 2 to enable the secondary logon service. And we'll quit this menu and then rerun the script again without the troubleshooting flag. So it's all green, so let's select yes to install the RDS services. The RDS services requires a reboot, so shortly the server will ask us to press enter to reboot the server. And we'll press enter. Now that the server is rebooted, the script will automatically open again and continue on with the RDS installation. This will take around 2 to 3 minutes. So we'll select yes to run the CPM connection test. And we'll enter in our installer user credentials. If you have an error around the secure tunnel after it's passed earlier, that's fine. You don't need to worry about that one. Great, so the CPM connection install test has completed. What this test does, it actually the script will log into the vault, simulate creating safes and objects and deleting them. This ensures that we have proper connectivity to the vault and firewalls are not disrupting the connectivity. So we're completed on connector server 1 for the prerequisites. I'll head over to connector server 2. We'll repeat the same steps here as well. So logging back into connector server 2, the script will automatically run again, just like it did on connector server 1. And as we can see, the CPM connection install test passed on the second server, and both servers now have RDS installed and are now ready for the connector management software. And we'll head back over to the workstation, and we'll switch over to use the application switcher here and go to home, and then use the application switcher again and go to connector management. We don't have any connectors in here yet, so let's add a connector now. We'll select next. This will generate a script that will run on both connector servers, and this will install the connector server agent. So I'll copy the script here, and we'll head over back to connector server 1. As we can see, the installation is complete, so I'll close this. We'll head over to connector server 2. We'll copy the script again on connector server 2. We'll open up PowerShell again as administrator, and we'll run the script. So that's finished. I'll now close that. And we'll head over to Connector Management and we'll hit close here. And we can refresh this view here, or it will automatically refresh. As we can see, both connector servers here are checked in. So we'll go into connector server 1, that will load this screen, and then we'll select add new component. We'll select next because we want to install the password manager and the PSM service at the same time. We've run the prerequisite script just previously, and we'll enter in the installer username and password. I want connector server 1 to be my primary CPM, and if I leave this default, it will use the host name of the CPM as a CPM name. In my case, I'm going to call this prod CPM. I'll leave it in the default installation path and the username. So I've entered in the credentials of the domain user that has local administrative rights on the server, and we'll also use the default installation path. Once that dialog box closes, we can refresh up here, and we should see some activity. So we can see the Privilege Session Manager is currently pending, and the Password Manager is downloading. I'll speed up the video and we'll see when it's finished. Great, so the installation has now finished on the connector server 1. That took around 12 to 15 minutes for it to complete. Let's now go back to connector management and repeat what we did on the second connector server. And on the second connector server, we will do one small change. We'll make it a DR CPM. So I'll just tick the box here because we did the prerequisite check. And we'll stick in our username and our password. So this is the part where we want to set the second connector server to be the DR CPM. We don't need to worry about a CPM name because it will not register the CPM. Further down, I will want to make this a PSM server. So I'll enter in the domain credentials now, and I want this installed in the default location as well. As we can see, the password manager is installing and the privilege session manager is pending. So I'll fast forward again and come back when this server is complete. It's expected that we'll see this orange triangle of inactive for both the password manager and CPM scanner on the DR CPM, and this is because it's in DR mode. So that's normal. We now need to implement the group policy hardening. Group policy hardening will be found with the Privilege Cloud package you download from this link here. I'll put that in the description. But this will have the GPO template, and it will also have the secure tunnel client installer included, which I'll install shortly. I've already downloaded this in the lab, so I will go over to connector server 1. Once the package is extracted, we'll navigate to the GPO folder, and I'll just copy this zip file. And then we'll switch over to DC1, and we'll stick this in the temp folder. Extract it. So now that that's extracted, we'll go to the CyberArk servers OU and create a GPO and link it here. In my lab, I'll call this CyberArk Hardening. And down the bottom here, we can go to Group Policy Objects and find the CyberArk Hardening Group Policy Object. We right click on this and go Import Settings. We don't need to back this up because it's a blank GPO. and I'll browse to the folder where I've got this saved. So now that I've navigated to that folder, if you've done it correctly, you'll see the CyberArk hardening in domain PSM. So we'll finish the wizard. And now that OU has got that applied, I'll switch back to connector server 1 and I'll open PowerShell as administrator. So we'll do a GP update /force. Once that's finished, we will run the GP result /r. This will tell us if the group policy has replicated, and we can see the CyberArk hardening. So that tells me this server has got the new setting. So I'm going to restart this computer, and we'll head over to connector server 2, and we'll repeat the same steps and reboot. We can see the hardening is applied, so that's great. I'll restart this server as well. And I'll head back over to Privilege Cloud here. While those servers are rebooting, I'd like to make a few changes to this environment so that we can onboard a Windows account and test that the solution works. So there's a few things we need to do. First, we'll go to Policies and we'll load the master policy. The first thing I want to do is go to Require Users to specify reason for access, and I'm going to turn this off. That way I don't have to provide a reason every time I make a connection. The next thing I need to do is go to Session Management, and we'll set this from inactive to active. And this basically turns on the privileged session management and monitoring and isolation. The next thing I'll point out is the auditing. By default, it's 90 days. We keep retention of recordings. The maximum you can make this is 180 days. So I'll change that now. If you want it more than 180 days, it's a commercial discussion with CyberArk. So I'm finishing the master policy. I'll now go down to administration and then go to platform management. Actually, we'll start in configuration options. First thing I like to do is make the PSM RDP sessions full screen. So I'll do that in this lab. And the same with the PSM SSH. Further down, we can go to Privileged Session Management and go to the configured PSM servers, and we've got our 2 connector servers here. By default, it will have the IP address as a connector server name. We need to replace this with the FQDN of the PSM server because the HTML5 gateway won't work unless we change that. So we'll apply that, and I'll repeat the same step for connector server 2. So over on platform management, we'll expand out the Windows platforms and we'll deactivate these to start off with. This way we can go back to factory defaults if we require, and then shortly I'll duplicate these for this lab environment. I'm going to duplicate the Windows domain account. I'll call this a different name. Click OK. And then we'll activate this platform. Now that I've duplicated this platform, I'll edit the platform. We'll go to Automatic Password Management, and we'll start off with Password Change. We'll make the Perform Periodic Change to Yes. And in Password Verification, we'll select Yes on Perform periodic verification, and we'll hit apply. And in generate password, we'll change this from the default of 12 to 24, and we'll hit apply. This is to ensure we meet the password complexity requirements. I'll now head over to policies and safes, and I'll go and create a new safe. We'll give this a name. It's a good idea to have a naming convention for your personal safes. So in my case, this will be a personal safe. And I'll hit skip and create safe. So now that safe is created, we can now go to accounts and add an account. So in this case, we'll select Windows. We'll select that platform we created earlier. And I'll use the personal safe that I created just now. So we'll enter in the credentials of the privileged user. And we'll press add. The first thing I like to do when I add in an account that I'm going to use a lot is select the favorite button, and I'll use the favorites view here, and I'll set that as my default. So that way when I go to the Privileged Cloud portal, it will only display what I'm interested in. There we are. So now I'll go into the account brad.admin and we'll select verify. And I'll remote on to connect to server 1 because that's our CPM server. And we'll open up services and we'll look for a CyberArk password manager. And we'll restart that service. So heading back over to the account here, we'll refresh. And we'll click into the account again, and we can see it's been verified by the prod CPM. I will now press change and change again, so the CPM will rotate this account. I'll go back to the connect to server 1. We'll restart the password manager again. Back over in the Privileged Cloud portal, we'll refresh. And we can see this has changed at 16 minutes past the hour. So that password has now changed. I'll now make a connection to a server. In this case, I'll use DC1 as my first machine I want to connect to. So as we can see, a PSM session has been established to DC1 as that user. So I'll now log off or sign out as that user. And that confirms that the CPM and PSM works for connect to server 1. If we want to test connect to server 2, we simply need to go to platform management, go to manage PSM connectors in the Windows platform, and we'll change it to connect to server 2. We'll make a new connection. Again, this will automatically download the RDP file. And as we can see, the PSM is working on both connector servers. I will leave it there for today. In the next video, I'll go through the secure tunnel and setting up the HTML5 gateway so we can have PSM sessions running in the web browser. And finally, this concludes the video. Thank you for watching.